Imagine being in the air for nearly an entire day. No stops, no breaks, just you, a plane, and 10,000 miles of sky between you and your destination. In 2025, the longest commercial flight you can book will keep you airborne for over 19 hours straight. That's longer than most people sleep in an entire day. It's longer than a full season of your favorite Netflix show. And for some passengers, it's actually cheaper than taking a flight with connections. Today, we're counting down the top 10 longest flights you can actually book right now in 2025. But this isn't just a list of routes. We're going to reveal which of these marathon journeys offers the best value for your money, what actually happens to your body at hour 17, and the insider secrets that flight attendants use to survive these ultra-long-haul routes. Whether you're an aviation geek, a travel hacker, or just curious about the extremes of modern air travel, buckle up, because some of these flights will absolutely blow your mind.
Coming in at number 10, we have Houston to Sydney on United Airlines. This beast of a route clocks in at 8,596 miles and takes approximately 17 hours and 30 minutes. United operates this flight on their Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner, and here's why this route is more interesting than you might think. Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport isn't typically thought of as a major international gateway compared to New York or LA, but United has turned it into a powerhouse hub for reaching Australia. This flight launched in January 2018 and has become surprisingly popular, especially for business travelers in the oil and energy sectors, connecting Texas to Australia's mining industry. Now here's something most people don't know. This route actually flies over the Pacific Ocean for nearly 12 consecutive hours without passing over any significant landmass. That means for half your journey, the nearest airport for an emergency landing could be over 1,000 miles away. Pilots call these ETOPS routes, Extended Range Twin-Engine Operational Performance Standards. Basically, the plane must be able to fly for up to 330 minutes on a single engine if something goes wrong. The ticket prices for this route are fascinating. In economy, you're looking at anywhere from $900 to $1,800 depending on the season. That works out to about $51 to $103 per hour of flight time. But here's where it gets interesting. United's business class Polaris seats on this route often go for $5,000 to $7,000. That's roughly $285 to $400 per hour. Is lying flat worth that premium? For a 17.5-hour flight, many travelers say absolutely yes. Pro tip from flight attendants, on this route, eat the first meal service, then immediately try to sleep for 8 to 10 hours. You'll wake up with about 6 to 7 hours left, which psychologically feels much more manageable than staying awake the whole time.
At number 9, we've got Dallas-Fort Worth to Melbourne on Qantas. Distance 8,992 miles. Flight time 17 hours and 35 minutes. Qantas operates this route with the Boeing 787-9, and it's part of their strategy to connect their major Australian cities with key US markets. But here's what makes this flight particularly brutal. It's one of the most time zone crossing routes in the world. You're essentially traveling from Thursday afternoon to Saturday morning, skipping Friday entirely when you cross the international date line. This messes with your circadian rhythm in ways that scientists are still studying. Research from the Aerospace Medical Association shows that crossing more than 8 time zones can take your body up to 8 days to fully adjust. Qantas has actually done something clever here. They've designed their meal service specifically to combat jet lag. They serve meals based on the destination time zone, not your departure time. So even though you might be taking off at 4 p.m. Dallas time, they'll serve you a breakfast meal partway through the flight to sync your body with Melbourne morning time. The aircraft choice is important too. The 787 Dreamliner is pressurized to the equivalent of 6,000 feet instead of the typical 8,000 feet on older planes. The humidity is also kept higher. This might sound like marketing nonsense, but passengers and crew genuinely report feeling less fatigued after these flights compared to the same journey on an older 777 or A380. Price-wise, this route averages $1,100 to $2,000 in economy during off-peak months. Business class will set you back $6,000 to $9,000. But here's an insider secret. Qantas often releases premium economy award seats at really good value about 3 to 4 months before departure. If you're flexible with dates, you can sometimes snag a lie-flat experience for a fraction of the business class price.
Number 8 brings us San Francisco to Bangalore on Air India. At 8,701 miles and approximately 17 hours and 45 minutes, this is one of the most important tech industry corridors in the sky. Air India relaunched this nonstop route in 2023 using their brand new Boeing 777-200LR aircraft, and it's basically a flying bridge between Silicon Valley and India's tech capital. On any given flight, you'll find software engineers, executives from major tech companies, and venture capitalists moving between these two innovation hubs. Here's something wild about this route. It flies over the North Pole. Well, not directly over it, but close enough that you're flying through some of the most remote airspace on Earth. The route typically goes up over Canada, skirts the Arctic Ocean, crosses over Russia, and then descends through Central Asia into India. This polar routing is actually a relatively recent development. Historically, these flights had to take much longer southern routes to avoid restricted airspace. But with modern diplomatic agreements and advanced navigation systems, airlines can now shave hours off these journeys by going over the top of the world. The passenger experience on this flight is unique because Air India has been investing heavily in their long-haul product. Their new business class suites offer direct aisle access for every passenger, which is crucial on a flight this long. Nobody wants to climb over their neighbor at hour 15 when nature calls. Economy tickets range from $800 to $1,600, making it one of the better values on our list at roughly $45 to $90 per hour. Business class runs $3,500 to $6,000, which is actually quite competitive compared to other routes of similar length. Flight attendant survival tip for this route: the galley crew rotates through 3 shifts on this flight, with built-in rest periods in crew bunks hidden above the passenger cabin. They recommend passengers adopt a similar strategy, break the flight into thirds mentally with planned activities for each segment.
Lucky number 7, Los Angeles to Singapore on Singapore Airlines. Distance, 8,770 miles. Duration, 17 hours and 50 minutes. Singapore Airlines is legendary in the aviation world for their service quality, and this route showcases exactly why. They operate this flight with an Airbus A350-900, which is specifically configured for ultra-long-haul comfort. But here's what most passengers don't realize. Singapore Airlines has removed seats from this aircraft compared to their standard configuration. They're operating with fewer passengers to ensure everyone has more space and the crew has a better passenger-to-crew ratio. This isn't charity, it's strategy. On flights this long, word of mouth matters enormously, and one bad experience shared online can cost them thousands in future bookings. The routing on this flight is fascinating from a geopolitical perspective. Depending on winds and international relations, the flight path can vary significantly. Sometimes it goes north over Alaska and down through Asia. Other times it takes a more southerly route over the Pacific. Flight planning for routes like this is like a massive game of chess, considering fuel costs, wind, restricted airspace, and even the curvature of the Earth. Here's a mind-blowing fact. At cruise altitude, this plane is traveling at roughly 575 miles per hour. But because you're moving with the jet stream, high-altitude wind currents that can reach 200+ miles per hour, your ground speed can actually exceed 700 miles per hour. That's nearly the speed of sound, even though the plane itself isn't breaking any speed records. Pricing for this route reflects the premium service. Economy seats range from $1,200 to $2,200, while business class can hit $7,000 to $10,000. But Singapore Airlines business class is consistently rated among the best in the world, with seats that convert to fully flat beds, premium bedding, and amenity kits that rival luxury hotels. The food situation deserves special mention. Singapore Airlines employs a team of internationally renowned chefs to design their menu, and on this route, you'll be offered 2 full meal services, plus snacks available throughout the flight. The galley is stocked with over 50 different food and beverage items.
At number 6, we're looking at Atlanta to Johannesburg on Delta Airlines. This 8,439-mile journey takes approximately 17 hours and 55 minutes, making it the longest flight to Africa from North America. Delta operates this route on the Airbus A350-900, and it's a fascinating example of hub strategy. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson isn't just the busiest airport in the world by passenger count, it's also Delta's mega hub. This single flight connects not just Atlanta, but dozens of smaller US cities to South Africa through one-stop connections. The route itself presents unique challenges. You're flying almost due south, which means you're not benefiting much from the typical westerly jet streams that speed up most long-haul flights. The flight path takes you down the East Coast, out over the Atlantic, and then hugging the West African coastline before cutting inland to Johannesburg. Here's something passengers rarely consider. This flight crosses the equator, which means you experience different seasons at your origin and destination. Leave Atlanta in winter, arrive in Johannesburg in summer. The 40 to 50 degree temperature difference can be jarring, and experienced travelers know to have layers easily accessible in their carry-on. What's particularly interesting is the passenger mix. This isn't primarily a tourist route. You'll find a significant number of business passengers, NGO workers, diplomats, and South African nationals traveling for family reasons. The demographic makeup actually affects the service style, with Delta offering more substantial meal options and less emphasis on entertainment compared to leisure-heavy routes. The pricing is surprisingly competitive. Economy ranges from $1,000 to $1,900, while Delta's business class suites run $5,000 to $8,000. But here's a pro tip. Delta often has sales on this route during shoulder seasons, April, May, and September, October, where you can snag business class for under $4,000 if you're flexible. From a crew perspective, this is one of Delta's more challenging routes. The time zone difference is 7 hours, and crews typically get a 24-hour layover in Johannesburg before operating the return flight. Flight attendants who regularly work this route have shared that the southbound flight is actually harder on the body than the northbound return, even though they're the same distance.
Halfway through our countdown at number 5, Perth to London on Qantas. At 9,010 miles and 18 hours flat, this is where we start entering truly extreme territory. This route made headlines when it launched in 2018 because it was the first direct link between Australia and Europe. Before this, passengers had to connect through Asia or the Middle East, adding hours to their journey. Qantas operates this with the Boeing 787-9, pushed to the absolute limits of its range capabilities. Here's what's remarkable about this flight from an engineering standpoint. The plane takes off from Perth at nearly maximum takeoff weight. The fuel alone weighs over 100 tons, which is more than the empty weight of the entire aircraft. To make this work, Qantas sometimes has to restrict cargo or even limit passenger bookings on days when weather conditions are unfavorable. The routing is almost unbelievable. You fly northwest from Perth, up over India, thread through the Middle East, and then across Europe to London. You're crossing deserts, mountains, multiple time zones, and some of the world's most politically complex airspace. The passenger experience has been carefully engineered for survival. Qantas conducted extensive research before launching this route, studying how to minimize jet lag and fatigue. They've implemented what they call wellness zones in the cabin, where passengers can stretch and hydrate. The cabin lighting is programmed to gradually shift from departure time zone to arrival time zone over the course of the flight. The meal service is timed specifically to regulate your circadian rhythm. You'll get a meal shortly after takeoff, then a long stretch where the cabin lights are dimmed to encourage sleep, followed by a wake-up service about 2 to 3 hours before landing that includes breakfast items and coffee, regardless of what time your body thinks it is. Price-wise, this is a premium route. Economy tickets range from $1,300 to $2,400, while business class runs $7,000 to $11,000. But here's the value proposition. Compared to a 2-stop journey that could take 25 to 30 hours total travel time, you're saving almost a full day. For business travelers and those on tight schedules, that time savings is worth the premium. Flight attendants on this route work in teams with overlapping rest breaks. The crew rest area on the 787 is actually above the passenger cabin, accessed by a hidden stairway. It contains bunk beds, and the crew is required by regulation to take breaks after certain periods of duty time.
At number 4, San Francisco to Singapore on Singapore Airlines. Distance, 8,447 miles. Time, 18 hours and 10 minutes. Now, you might be thinking, wait, Didn't we already cover a Singapore Airlines flight? Yes, but this one is different and it showcases something fascinating about ultra-long-haul route planning. This route is actually shorter in distance than the LA to Singapore flight we discussed earlier, but it takes longer. Why? Wind patterns. The LA flight benefits more from favorable jet streams, while the San Francisco route often faces headwinds that can add 20 to 30 minutes to the journey. Singapore Airlines operates this flight on the A350-900 ULR, or Ultra Long Range, which is a special variant with additional fuel tanks and a modified cabin configuration. This plane has fewer seats than a standard A350, maxing out at around 180 passengers instead of the typical 300 plus you'd find on shorter routes. Here's something wild. This aircraft can theoretically fly for over 20 hours if needed. The limitation isn't the plane, it's the crew. Aviation regulations require crew rest periods, and beyond a certain flight time, you'd need to carry additional crew members, which adds weight and complexity. The passenger demographics on this route lean heavily toward tech industry workers and tourists heading to Southeast Asia. Singapore is a major hub for onward connections to destinations like Bali, Bangkok, and Kuala Lumpur, so many passengers are using this as the first leg of a longer journey. Singapore Airlines has done something clever with the cabin configuration. They offer 3 classes: business, premium economy, and economy. But notably absent is first class. On routes this long, they've determined that the sweet spot is a really excellent business class rather than trying to sell ultra-luxury first-class seats. The pricing reflects the strategy. Economy runs $1,100 to $2,000, premium economy is $2,500 to $4,000, and business class ranges from $6,000 to $9,500. The premium economy product on this route is particularly popular because it offers significantly more space and comfort than economy, but at a price point that's still reasonable for vacationers. The meal service on this flight is extensive. 2 full meal services, plus a light refreshment option between meals, plus a snack bar that's open throughout the flight. Singapore Airlines also offers Book the Cook, where you can pre-order specific meals from an expanded menu before your flight.
The bronze medal goes to Newark to Singapore on Singapore Airlines. 9,534 miles, 18 hours and 30 minutes. This is where things get seriously extreme. We're talking about a flight that's longer than the entire width of the planet at the equator. When you take off from Newark, people in Singapore are already in bed sleeping. When you land, it'll be 2 calendar days later from your departure date. This route holds special significance because it was actually the world's longest flight when it was first introduced in 2018, using the same A350-900 ULR we discussed earlier. Singapore Airlines specifically designed this aircraft variant to operate this exact route. The flight path is extraordinary. You take off from Newark, fly northwest over Canada and Alaska, cross over the North Pole region, descend through Russia and China, and finally into Singapore. You're essentially flying over the top of the world, crossing through some of the coldest inhabited places on Earth while you're cruising at -60 degrees Fahrenheit outside the plane at 40,000 feet. Here's a question that passengers always ask. What happens if something goes wrong mid-flight? These ultra-long routes require extensive emergency planning. The plane carries extra fuel reserves for diversions, and pilots have pre-planned alternate airports along the route. Depending on where the emergency occurs, you might divert to Anchorage, Alaska, or to cities in Russia like Magadan or Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, places most passengers have never heard of. The cabin experience is meticulously planned. Singapore Airlines only offers business class and premium economy on this route, no standard economy at all. This keeps the passenger count low, around 160 total, and ensures everyone has a reasonably comfortable experience. They've recognized that nobody should be stuck in a cramped economy seat for 18.5 hours. Business class on this route features the latest generation of Singapore seats, which convert to fully flat beds that are over 6 feet long. Each seat has direct aisle access, so you never have to climb over anyone. The privacy dividers can be adjusted, and there's even a Do Not Disturb indicator you can activate when you want to sleep. The The pricing is premium, but not outrageous when you consider what you're getting. Premium economy ranges from $2,800 to $4,500, while business class runs $7,500 to $12,000. That works out to roughly $400 to $650 per hour in business class, which some travelers argue is worthwhile for avoiding a connection and the complications that come with it. The health implications of sitting for this long are real. Flight attendants encourage passengers to walk around at least once per hour. The A350's cabin pressure and humidity help, but nothing fully prevents the fatigue that comes with being sedentary for nearly 19 hours. Some business travelers swear by compression socks and staying extremely well hydrated throughout the flight.
Our runner-up at number 2, New York JFK to Singapore on Singapore Airlines. 9,537 miles, 18 hours and 40 minutes. You might be wondering why this flight is longer than the Newark to Singapore route, even though JFK and Newark are only 15 miles apart. The answer comes down to routing and winds. The JFK flight often takes a slightly different path to optimize for wind conditions, and those small variations can add 10 to 15 minutes to the total journey. This route is fascinating because Singapore Airlines essentially operates two of the world's longest flights, both ending in Singapore, both departing from the New York metro area. It's a massive commitment of resources and a testament to how valuable the New York-Singapore business corridor is. The aircraft is once again the A350-900 ULR with the same limited seating configuration. Singapore Airlines has built their entire ultra-long-haul strategy around this specific aircraft variant, which was developed in close partnership with Airbus specifically for these routes. What's particularly interesting about this flight is the competitive pressure. Before Singapore Airlines launched these nonstop routes, passengers had to connect through Middle Eastern hubs like Dubai or Doha, or through Asian cities like Hong Kong or Tokyo. Those journeys could take 22-25 hours total travel time. By going nonstop, Singapore Airlines isn't just saving time, they're eliminating the stress and hassle of connections. The economics of operating this flight are mind-boggling. Each flight burns approximately 100,000 liters of fuel, which at current prices is around $80,000 to $100,000 worth of jet fuel per flight. Add in crew costs, maintenance, airport fees, and overhead, and each one-way operation probably costs Singapore Airlines upward of $200,000 to $250,000. With roughly 160 seats, they need to maintain high load factors and premium pricing to make this work financially. From a passenger perspective, the experience is about as good as it gets for a flight this long. The food quality is exceptional, the seat comfort is among the best in the industry, and the service is attentive without being intrusive. Singapore Airlines has calculated that on flights this long, passenger satisfaction directly correlates with repeat bookings and brand loyalty. The pricing reflects the premium nature of the route. Premium economy tickets range from $3,000 to $5,000, while business class can hit $8,000 to $13,000. During peak travel seasons like holidays or Singapore's Grand Prix week, business class can exceed $15,000 one way. Here's something most people don't know. Flight crews on this route are specially selected and trained. Not every flight attendant in Singapore Airlines roster is qualified to work these ultra-long flights. They undergo additional training in fatigue management, medical emergencies, and customer service psychology for extended interactions.
And finally, the longest flight you can take in 2025 at number 1, Singapore to New York JFK on Singapore Airlines. Wait, didn't we just cover this route? Here's the thing. The westbound flight from Singapore to New York is actually longer than the eastbound flight due to prevailing winds. Distance is the same at 9,537 miles, but the flight time is approximately 18 hours and 50 minutes. This is your winner. The absolute longest scheduled commercial flight operating in the world right now. Nearly 19 hours in the air without a single stop. The eastbound flight from New York to Singapore benefits from the jet stream, those high-altitude winds that blow from west to east. The westbound return flight fights against those same winds, adding precious minutes to the journey.
It's the same reason why your flight from Los Angeles to New York is always shorter than the return trip. This route represents the pinnacle of modern aviation achievement. We've come from the Wright brothers' 12-second first flight in 1903 to being able to stay airborne for over 18 hours straight in 2025. The technology, logistics, and human endurance required to operate this flight safely and consistently is staggering. For passengers, this flight is the ultimate test of long-haul travel tolerance. You'll experience 2 sunsets or 2 sunrises depending on your direction of travel. You'll cross 12 time zones. You'll travel through the airspace of multiple countries. And you'll arrive at your destination having aged slightly less than people on the ground due to time dilation effects, though we're talking nanoseconds here. The question everyone asks is it worth it? For business travelers who value time over everything else, absolutely. For leisure travelers, it depends on your tolerance for sitting still and your budget. For aviation enthusiasts, it's a bucket list experience. Singapore Airlines has mastered this route. They know how to pace the service, when to dim the lights, when to offer meals, and how to make 18 hours and 50 minutes feel survivable, even somewhat enjoyable.
So there you have it, the top 10 longest flights you can take in 2025. From Houston to Sydney at number 10, all the way to Singapore to New York at number 1, these routes represent the cutting edge of modern aviation. These aren't just flights, they're engineering marvels, logistical masterpieces, and tests of human endurance all rolled into one. The next time you complain about a 3-hour domestic flight, remember that somewhere in the sky right now, there's someone on hour 17 of an 18-hour journey. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more aviation content. Drop a comment below and let us know, would you ever take one of these ultra long-haul flights, or is a connection worth it to break up the journey? Safe travels, and we'll see you in the next one.